So in this video I'm going to suggest a centre forward who I think could be available for between 25 to 30 million pounds. Now I'm not going to tell you who it is straight away because we do have some fan channel crowd who will watch 10 seconds of the video, hear an opinion they don't agree with, not listen to the reasoning and then go to the comments to tell me how I don't know what I'm talking about, like they weren't signing letters to keep Ten Hag in the summer. But let me give you the outline. I think United need a centre forward who fundamentally can put the ball in the back of the net. If you watched the video I put out earlier on in the week about why Amorim needs these two specific strikers, you'll already be aware of how I think the tactical meta is changing, and because the opposition sides are now prepared to sit deep and incredibly compact, with the wide midfielders moving infield, almost like central midfielders in order to congest the space centrally, that I think going forward United and other sides as well need to start using crossing situations more often. Because just think about it logically, how many Manchester United games do you watch where the opposition is sitting deep and compact and we are still trying to play through the centre? And even when we do create promising crossing situations out wide, with Xerxes and Højlund as our centre forward options, we haven't got anyone who is reasonably competent in offensive aerial situations, let alone dominant or a specialist. And that's why I think in order to counter the deep and compact defensive shapes, rather than doing what Pep started to do last season, which is bring in 1v1 specialist wingers to isolate the fullbacks in 1v1s, I think Manchester United and other sides as well should be looking to move to more crossing specialists. And before I break that down further, a quick reminder, if you do want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. They've got a variety of different retro and current season jerseys. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you will get a 10% discount. They've got the Manchester United jerseys going all the way back to the 1990s, and depending on where you live, you can get 7 to 12 day delivery time, as well as a 30-day money back guarantee. If you do want to check out any of the details before you buy, they've got their WhatsApp and email on the site, but I will leave it linked in the description and comment section below, and remember to use code Atlantis at checkout so you do get a 10% discount. So the problem with having 1v1 specialists like Doku or Savinho is that even if they are successful in being able to isolate and then beat their fullback in a 1v1, by the time they got to the byline, they end up getting crowded out before they can even create a chance. Whereas with someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold, he can create a chance without even having to beat anyone, simply by getting the ball out of his feet and whipping in a cross. Now obviously United would need preferably at least one wing-back who is a high-level crosser, which is the main reason why I've been suggesting Dwight McNeil as a signing over the last few weeks, but we also need a centre forward as well who can get on the end of these crosses, and I think I have the perfect centre forward for the job, and you'll be familiar with him, Youssef en-Nesyri, the man who scored against us for Fenerbahce and Sevilla in recent years, and against Portugal for Morocco in the World Cup. Now he isn't a glamorous name, he isn't someone who's going to develop into a world-class striker, but I would put him in the same category as the likes of Immobile, Di Natale, Luca Toni, Dzeko, Freddie Konate, Alvaro Negredo, Icardi, etc. The type of striker who scores goals, but because they either have baggage, or they've just developed later on in their careers, or just never had the hype of younger strikers who burst onto the scene earlier on in their careers, they always seem underrated and never get the credit they deserve. But for me, when people talk about Højlund's potential, I'm looking at en-Nesyri thinking, it's debatable whether Højlund even gets to that level. I mean, if you watch en-Nesyri, he's a typical box striker. He's decent in terms of his link-up play, certainly better than Højlund with his back to goal, but he's nothing special. He's got very good work rate, and has the intensity to be perfect for an aggressive pressing system. But the real reason why I'm drawn to him was his aerial ability, because he's 6'2", but he has a leap like a monster. And if you look at some of the headers he scored over the years, you can't tell me that that alone wouldn't improve United's attack. Throw in a crossing specialist to the squad like Dwight McNeil, who can play as a wing-back from either flank, and I think you have at least another 10 goals a season from either en-Nesyri specifically or someone else getting on the end of a McNeil cross. Now considering he will be 28 in the summer, £30 million may be a bit too much, but for around £25 million, considering Fenerbahce paid £17 million for him in the summer, he's an established Champions League and Europa League level striker, and has even proven himself against United specifically under Ten Hag for both Sevilla and Fenerbahce. I think it's a pretty good deal, and you can see this further when we break down en-Nesyri's FBref report. Statistically, in the last 1,596 minutes that he's played over the last 365 days in Europe's top 5 leagues, so factoring out Fenerbahce in the Turkish league, only focusing on La Liga with Sevilla and the Europa League with Fenerbahce, he ranks in the 91st percentile for his non-penalty goals and the 82nd for his non-penalty XG. which he also overperforms by 0.17 per 90, which itself ranks in the 91st percentile. And to be fair, this sort of XG overperformance hasn't come out of nowhere, as last season in La Liga, en-nesyri scored 16 goals in 33 La Liga games for Sevilla, ranking in the 84th percentile for his non-penalty goals, and overperforming his non-penalty XG by 0.18 per 90. In the Champions League in 22-23, he ranked around the mid-80th percentiles for both stats, once again overperforming his non-penalty XG, this time by around 0.11 per 90. And in La Liga that year, whilst he didn't overperform his non-penalty XG, he did almost hit it bang on, and he did rank around the 80th percentile for his non-penalty goals and his non-penalty XG. And the reason I'm showing you this is because this is a sort of statistical consistency over the last few seasons that is exactly what United should be looking for. It's better to sign a £35 million player for £25 million than it is to sign a potential £100 million player for £60 million, because it's a lot more probable that the £25 million signing can actually exceed expectations and become a £40 million player, looking like a fantastic signing. But even after one season, a £60 million player performing like a £40 million player, eventually at a club like Manchester United, is going to come under pressure. Definitely by the end of the first season if he isn't living up to that price tag. En-nesyri is a box striker, someone who at Sevilla and Fenerbahce, in European competition as well as at the World Cup for Morocco, is a proven goal scorer. Outside of the box he's nothing special, but he does the job. And he's primarily in the side to be a box specialist, particularly from aerial situations. The only issue I see with a potential en-nesyri deal is the price. I probably wouldn't go above £25 million unless it was with some speculative add-ons, which Fenerbahce may be inclined to accept, considering it would be around 35 to 40% profit in just a year. Now you could maybe think about loaning Højlund to Fenerbahce for a year and then having en-nesyri come on loan the other way, which could work well for United as they get a proven goal scorer for next season, whilst Højlund gets a year to develop outside the Premier League, still playing in the Europa League or Champions League, where he can either improve to the level needed to come back and compete for a spot at United, or just be sold on next summer for more than what United could sell him for this summer. If the en-nesyri deal wasn't possible because of finances or Ineos just wanted someone younger, an alternative could be Rodrigo Muñoz at Fulham, who like en-nesyri is an advanced forward who isn't just a box threat but also an aerial threat both inside and outside of the box as well. And I'm actually debating as to whether Muñoz would be a better option than en-nesyri now that he has returned from injury. He's around 4 years younger than en-nesyri, not 24 until May. He does have 1 year left on his Fulham contract come the summer, but considering they do have the option to extend it by a year, he isn't really going to be available on the cheap, at least until the summer of 2026. But before I break down Muñoz in more detail, a quick reminder, if you do want to check out my Patreon, you can get access to my articles. I've got a few different interesting topics I've been talking about on there, so you can check them out and get a 7-day free trial as well in case you just want to see what it's like. You can also get access to my in-game Instagram group chat. So if you do want to sign up for any of those, I'll leave it linked in all the usual places, the eye above, description, comment section, and on the end screen after the video. Now Muñoz, like en-nesyri, is very good from crossing situations, with Muñoz capable in aerial situations and also when volleying the ball from awkward positions, but his movement inside and outside of the box is very underrated as well, as he knows when to drop off to draw the centre back high and how to manoeuvre himself in order to open up the opportunity to then make a run off the defender, and when in pressurised goal scoring positions he certainly has a composure and the subtlety in his finishing that Højlund lacks. I'm not 100% sure how much he'd cost. I'd imagine it'd be around £35 million, maybe as much as £40 million, and for that sort of money I'd probably rather just pay the extra for Osimhen, Gyökeres or even Sesko, or more likely pay a bit less for a stopgap centre forward like en-nesyri. Muñoz is very good with his back to goal when receiving direct passes into his feet, which would certainly suit Amorim's system, when we do look to bypass the midfield with a direct pass from deeper positions. En-nesyri isn't as good in this regard, but he's certainly more reliable than Højlund, and inside of the box, certainly with quality crosses, either Muñoz or en-nesyri will score you goals. Two strikers with a high non-penalty XG and consistently either hitting or overperforming it. And so as far as an advanced forward, target man kind of striker who is also clinical inside of the box, I think en-nesyri for £25 million, if we are selling Højlund for between 35 or 40, would make a lot of sense. Keep en-nesyri for a year, have someone that probably comes in as one of the best strikers in the league if he does hit form straight away, just because if you look around at the other top clubs such as Arsenal, Liverpool or even Chelsea, in terms of goal scoring ability inside of the box, en-nesyri is probably a better option than the likes of Havertz, Darwin Núñez or Nicholas Jackson. And then after a year in the summer of 2026, he'll be 29, and United can move him on for probably around what they paid for him, maybe to another Premier League club, get their money back on the deal, and then reinvest it in someone like Osimhen or Gyökeres. To me, thinking 2 years ahead is the best option for United this summer, given that Osimhen and Gyökeres may be unlikely because of the cost, and I definitely think someone with the skill set and pedigree of en-Nesyri should at least be considered. So let me know who you'd have as an Osimhen Gyökeres alternative, and who you'd prefer out of en-Nesyri and Rodrigo Muniz. And if you do want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. It will be linked in the comment section and description below, and you can also sign up to my Patreon, which will be linked on the end screen now.